Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
Welcome to the big show. We have a great week of news and boxing recaps with Top Rank having a card on ESPN and Matchroom on the Zone. I'm Mark Salinas, and as always, I have David from La Estrella, East Side Dallas. David, man, how you been?
Good. Back in Brooklyn right now. It's good. Feels good to be back at home. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, listen, the Top Rank card. Yanabek pulled out of the Top Rank card, man, but they still had some really good action. The main event had us all wondering if the old man, Tevin Farmer, could have a dramatic ending. The rest of the card was also full of up-and-comers and journeymen going for their last shots. Let's start with Top Rank, David. I have to say, man, Tevin Farmer looked really, really good. He didn't win, but I think he did really good, and he bought himself a couple of more fights, probably with Top Rank. Top Rank's known for that. When you put on a good show, they may not sign you, but they'll bring you back, and he's going to be dangerous for his next guys. I think he bought himself a couple of more fights. How did you see Farmer?
I thought Farmer fought well, Mark. He was the rightful underdog here. Vegas odds had him as high as plus 700. Obviously, Farmer's 3.5-year layoff and age factored into that. He did have a 3-fight comeback coming in, but Morataya was just a huge leap in competition compared to those guys. But and also Farmer looked so much smaller than Morataya too. But I think Farmer exposed some flaws. Morataya is a pressure fighter, but he doesn't throw a lot of punches. He's not very busy, and that's ideal for a counterpuncher. I think Farmer showed a blueprint of how you can have success against Morataya, and a bigger 135-pounder might be able to take more advantage of that.
Yeah, listen, man. In the co-main event, we had Ruben Villa, and Ruben Villa is only 27, man, but he's been around a real long time at the top of the division. He fought for a title a few years ago against Navarrete. That was his only shot. He lost that, but this dude's been up against the best: Navarrete, Joel Gonzalez, El Venado Lopez, and Ruben Villa just won the WBC silver in Houston a couple of months ago, and then they put him in tough again against Suleiman Sagawa, and he lost. Can Ruben Villa come back from this one? Because this one was a devastating loss. He walked right out of the ring afterwards.
Villa's 27, like you said, and I don't think it's too late for him, but this was quite a setback. He's not a big puncher, so it's kind of hard to keep his name out there in demand from boxing fans. But if he can take some time off, regroup, and get back in the ring and get a couple of wins under his belt, he can work his way back up the rankings.
Ruben Villa from Salinas, California, Alisal District, man. Shout out. Hey, man, Alisal District all day. Anyway, David, Sheehy is one of my favorite young guys. I've kept saying it over and over again. Top Rank has the best young talent out there, and he's one of the guys that I keep an eye on, along with Keyshawn Davis, Shakur, he's not with Top Rank anymore, Tiger Johnson, and several others. He's a part of that stable that's supposed to be great. And on Saturday, he didn't look so great, David. And the crowd, también, they let him know about it.
Yeah, I really hadn't kept tabs on Sheehy, but Quiros, his opponent, hadn't been stopped before in either of his 4 losses, and now he has 5. And he's been in with fighters like Jermaine Ortiz, Tiger Johnson, and Giovanni Cabrera, so he has some good experience. I'd give Sheehy a C plus. I think Sheehy just wasn't using his jab enough, and he waited on Quiros too much. He needs to be first and establish a rhythm in order to get his offense off. So I think that was the type of fight, a development fight that every young fighter needs, and probably a bit of a wake-up call, too, with the way that the crowd reacted to him.
It has to be a wake-up call for him. You can't have the crowd turn on you like that. That's bad. And Bob is short-tempered. He'll cut you out of that roster quick, so he's got to turn that around. On the Zone, David, meanwhile, in Philadelphia, Jerome Boots Ennis puts on another clinic, man. This guy, David, I can't say enough about him, man. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters. The guy throws chingos of combinations, man, and usually they start downstairs and end up top. I mean, he looks fantastic, man. He closest thing to Apollo Creed there is right now, man. And listen, I know Avanesian touched him a few times. People are talking about him getting touched. Hey, man, Venetian touched a lot of dudes. Well, but it's boxing. You're going to get touched. Boots handles it well. I think right now, Boots can beat Crawford and he can compete with Canelo. I repeat, he can beat Crawford and compete. I didn't say he can beat Canelo, but I think he can compete with Canelo. What do you think, Dave?
I don't know, Mark. Maybe it was just me, but I wasn't too impressed with Boots. I mean, yes, he did get the knockdown and he got a stoppage after hurting Evanesian's jaw, but I think he did get hit a little too clean by Evanesian. I mean, I really wasn't expecting that. I thought we were going to see a systematic breakdown by Boots, similar to what he did to Villa. But you know what I was most impressed by? That crowd that he brought into the Wells Fargo Center. That was good to see, man. Philadelphia always had the reputation of a fight town back in the 70s and 80s. He needs to fight out there more often. As for Crawford versus Boots, yeah, that's a fight I'd like to see, but I don't know. Like, it had to happen at 154, and Boots doesn't have a title there, so I don't know if Bud would even waste his time trying to fight him. As for Canelo versus Boots, I mean, that just seems kind of crazy right now. Boots really hasn't proven that he's the best fighter at 147 yet, let alone 168. And we're talking about him trying to take on the man at 168. Look, Boots passes the eye test, but he hasn't passed the test yet. So it's a little too early to say how he would do against other pound-for-pound fighters.
And hey, listen, on to some cheese, man, bro. Shakur, one of my favorite fighters today. He's all over the news. He's all over social media, David. Everybody's been taking shots at him. He is firing back at everybody, and he's just making a media stir. He's all over the internet. He's all over YouTube. He's beefing with Cameron. He's beefing with Mace on that It Is What It Is podcast. Now he's beefing with Shushu Carrington. On my boy Mazuma TV just made a video on that one. Shout out to Mazuma TV. With all of this going on, me and you were thinking maybe he made a mistake not signing with Top Rank and taking that deal, but I think we're both going to eat crow, man. I think this guy is making so much of a stir, and then also with those ESPN numbers coming out, I think he's going to make more money, man. I think we were both wrong. I think he's probably going to sign with Matchroom, Golden Boy, or whoever he does end up with, somewhere around 3 to 5 million a fight guaranteed. Do you think he's going to make more than the Top Rank offer guaranteed? And also, what's your opinion on who he's going to sign with? Because everybody wants this kid.
I'm not sure, Mark. I mean, yeah, like you said, all the major promoters are interested, especially Golden Boy and Matchroom. They both talked to Shakur's people and both stated that they're interested in working with him. But I've heard Eddie Hearn say the financials have to make sense. So it's not like he's willing to open up the trunk and throw money at Shakur. He's probably not going to offer too much more than Top Rank did. A couple of things about the ratings on ESPN. I mean, yeah, that's great. But considering what everyone saw in the De Los Santos fight, I'm sure people tuned in because Shakur hyped up this fight and said he was going to make a statement. Second, those high ratings aren't exactly a great thing for him now. When all of those people tuned in, what do you think the majority of them thought? Going in, they already thought Shakur is not going to be the type of fighter that puts on exciting performances for most boxing fans. After this last fight, they know it for sure now. And I know you're getting excited about all the attention that he's been getting, Mark. And when it comes to being a pay-per-view star, if people think you're boring and all of the news about you is how immature you are, that doesn't exactly translate to pay-per-view sales. Shakur needs a tough fight. That fighter that I think will get fans interested is William Cepeda. He has the record, he has the knockout ratio, he's undefeated, and he has an exciting style. He doesn't have the big name, but he'll give a good fight. Every fighter needs that launch pad fight. What do you think about William Cepeda? Do you think that's the fight that Shakur needs to hush his critics?
I think he needs it to hush critics like you and I and true hardcore boxing fans, because he's a true core hardcore boxing fan himself. I mean, the guy's got Pernell Whitaker tattooed on his calf. He watches everything on YouTube that me and you do, old fights, black and white old fights, Muhammad Ali fights, Sugar Ray Leonard fights. I mean, the kid is a boxing student and he loves boxing. And I think he wants to fight William Cepeda because he's a student of the game and he loves it. And Oscar De La Hoya has that commodity. And I want him to come over to Golden Boy. And also, they don't have a world champ. William Cepeda is a way to, bring him in. It's a good recruiting tool. He's got a hot commodity in him. It's something that Shakur wants, and I think Oscar will pay him anywhere between $3 to $5 million to come in on his stable. And I mean, you never know with Oscar. He may end up with two world champions when he brings in Shakur, and it's all hot water. And then Cepeda is going to fight for some other belt, and he'll have two world champions. But Golden Boy does need um, Shakur, and I think he will pull out all stops. He doesn't have a champion, but yeah, I think it'll do wonders for him with inside boxing critics. A name like William Cepeda is not going to bring him any notoriety as far as helping him get a bigger payday. But as far as critics and inside boxing guys, that's big for him, and he really cares about that. So Golden Boy has a shot.
Speaking of Cepeda, though, Mark, did you see that tweet that Oscar sent out saying that they had talked with Shakur's people?
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that tweet comes off real hypocritical to me. It was just a few months ago, Oscar was asking, basically begging all of the promoters to work together and that they could put on the best fights for boxing fans and not let politics get in the way. And now he's taking William Cepeda off of the table for Shakur unless Shakur signs with him. It's totally contradicting. Making that plea that he made earlier this year about promoters working together and not hiding their fighters behind promotional lines. And now he's making statements like, you can't get this fight unless you're signed with me. I mean, it's hypocritical at best.
I mean, I don't believe he'll do that. We all know he works with promoters. And also, they got a good track record, man. If you look at the past few big fights, Oscar's been involved in all of them. So, in one form or fashion. So, I think Golden Boy's in the lead. And I think we're both going to be wrong at the end of the day, man. I think Shakur's going to make more money than we thought. What do you think on that one?
So, one of the reasons why I thought he should stay with Top Rank was because when he was with them, Top Rank had 3 of the 4 belt holders under their promotion. So Shakur had more options with them. While a lot of fighters like working with Eddie Hearn, at 135, he doesn't have a lot of options for Shakur. And he was talking about offering Shakur a title shot at Liam Battle for the 140-pound title. Then when it comes to Golden Boy, Oscar only has William Cepeda to offer Shakur Stevenson. And outside of that, what other fights can he get him? We're in the era right now where a lot of promotional companies are tightening up their belts. I don't think they're throwing big money at people anymore like they used to. So Shakur's kind of in this era where, hey, you need to prove that you're worth the money in order to get it.
I hope Oscar takes a little bit of that money that he turned around on that sale in that house in Vegas and puts a little bit, about $1.5 million on top of Top Rank's per fight minimum, man. $1.5 million, $2 million is not a lot, Oscar. We need that guy. Bring him on the team. Anyway, David, Newa Inoue will take on Irish veteran TJ Dahoney. I hope I got that right. Dehaney. TJ, is this a letdown fight or does he deserve a gimme? Now, I wouldn't call this one a gimme, and I wouldn't call it a letdown either. Inoue just went through one of the hardest training camps possibly in his career because he was facing Luis Neri, who was really, really dangerous. I mean, took care of him fairly easy, but it was a real serious fight, and it just happened not too long ago, maybe weeks or a couple months ago. And for him to turn around and give us another jewel, because, I mean, Naoya Inoue, we both agree is special and once in a lifetime. For him to turn around and give us some more a couple of months later, it's always great, man. It's always great to see this guy fight. He's once in a lifetime guy. It's that special to see him fight against anybody.
It's a gimme fight. It's pretty much a gimme. No one's expecting TJ to be a threat or very competitive with Inoue. This is basically a stay busy fight. That's what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Inoue has had a hell of a run the last few years. and there's nothing wrong with him taking a stay busy fight. And we learned from the press conference announcing this fight recently that he wants to stay at 122 pounds for 2 more years. He has no plans in the near future to move up and go to 126. He wants to let his body adjust to 122 and fill in for the weight. Now, that does sound kind of weird, right? Because he knocked out his last 3 opponents at 122 pounds, and they were pretty much the top, or at least in the top 5 in the division. He's just not trying to rush into anything. This is also a fight for his Japanese fans because TJ has fought in Japan in his last 3 fights. He stopped all of them, and one of them was a Japanese fighter. I think his name was Kazuki Nakajima. The Japanese fans are very familiar with him.
Inoue mentioning that he's going to be there at 122 for at least 2 more years. I like that, man. I like that move. There's a lot of upcoming fights coming for him. It may be Bam. I mean, there's a lot of guys in there. Ramon Cardenas, Carlos Jackson, Alan David Picasso, who's ranked number 1 in the WBC. Although y'all don't believe, you and David Contreras, your boy, don't think that he should be there. There is a hell of a lot of big fights, coming up, and him staying there, guys moving up. They're just there's bigger fights coming in.
There are a couple of fighters that you didn't mention, Mark, that also need to be mentioned. MJ is definitely going to be on Inoue's radar. He's probably the next best fighter at 122 pounds, as well as Sam Goodman, who was going to be the original opponent for Inoue.
Oh, Sam Goodman, 19
yeah, 19-0. And here's another one for you. And I remember when I said this several videos back, people were talking noise in the comments. And even you, Mark, you said I was a little crazy for this. But I believe another high-profile opponent that will eventually be at 122 pounds will be Junto Nakatani.
You mentioned Junto Nakatani. I mentioned Bam. Junto Nakatani and Bam, you don't see that fight happening before the Inoue fight?
Well, just ask yourself, who would Junto fight first? Do you think Junto was going to wait for Bam, or do you think Junto would like to take on Inoue for probably the biggest payday and one of the hugest fights in Japanese history?
Well, both Bam and Junto would jump at that one, but I'm saying, now, do you think we need to see a Bam Junto Nakatani before we see an Inoue with any of them?
Thinking about Junto's mind state right now, I read a comment recently where his number 1 goal is to become the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And you know who else is on many people's pound-for-pound list at number 1? Naoya Inoue. So I think that's just a fight that makes a lot of sense. That fight would be huge in Japan. And while I think Bam and Nakatani would make a really good fight, Bam has some business to take care of at 115 pounds. He said he wants to unify, so it's going to take some time to do that. And I don't know if Junto will still be there by the time Bam is ready.
Bam and Inoue will be a really big fight in the United States, David. Bam and Inoue would be a monster event. But Inoue and Junto Nakatani in Japan would be bigger than King Kong versus Godzilla, man. This thing would be huge. It'd be like remember when Tyson fought Buster Douglas? That's how big that fight would be, or bigger. David Benavidez, man, his time's already up. He's got to let the WBC know if he's going to just stay at 175 or move back down to 168. The WBC had given him an extension, but that ends in a couple of days, David. What do you think Benavidez' plans are?
I don't know, man. I keep thinking about the way Benavidez was talking after the fight with Gvozdyk. He didn't seem confident in his ability to fight 175-pounders. He was used to being the big guy at 168, but at 175, that's not him anymore. He's not the bigger man. Obviously, he still wants Canelo, even though he tried to say he moved on. You know, he was acting like he's over his ex-girl or something, right? You've heard that before from one of your friends, I'm sure. Oh, man, I'm over that chick. And then next week, they're all hugged up at the movies or something. That's Benavidez and Canelo right now. He acted like he was moving on from Canelo and trying to make his legacy at 175. Well, right after fighting Gvozdyk, he started talking about Canelo again. I did read online, though, that one of Canelo's representatives said Benavidez is not off the table for Canelo. There's still a possibility for him to be an opponent. Now, I don't know when that would happen, and I'm not exactly holding my breath for that fight. But if Benavidez has even a snowball's chance in hell for a Canelo fight, of course he's going to want to keep the door open for a return to 168.
Man, I hope he stays at 175. I said
Me
it
too. Me
before.
too.
I think he looks good at 175. I know he was hurt with his hands, but he was fast and he still works the body and he looks extremely faster in this weight class. I think he's more athletic than all these guys, and I think he can create his own legacy here. Stop chasing Canelo, just stay where you are. I think he was complaining about these guys being bigger than him to kind of justify why he may want to come down because he's still thinking about Canelo, like you said. It's over, man. It's over. You know, you break up and you move on, and your new girlfriend is at 175, man. And there's 4 girls waiting for you out there, man. You don't need no Bena. You don't need no Canelo. Stay at 175. Make your mark. You'll be all right. I think it's going to be ridiculously hard for you to move down to 168. You're going to lose something. Stay at 175, stay healthy, and you'll probably gain something.
I think 175 is the move for him as well. And you know who else is moving up there and who has decided they're going to stay at 175? David Morrell. Morrell and Benavidez should have fought each other at 168. They still could have a chance to do it at 175. And Morrell says he wants to be undisputed at 175. So Morrell is looking for the smoke.
Well, that's it for this show. Thank you guys for joining us again. We're this close to getting there, guys. Help us out. Subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. Get us to that 1,000. Also, don't forget to like and comment. That really helps us out. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.